You have people that are registered who are dead, who are illegals, who are in 2 states. You have people registered in 2 states. They're registered in New York and in New Jersey. They vote twice.
That was President Donald Trump yesterday in an interview with ABC News, repeating the widely debunked claim that there was voter fraud in the presidential election that caused him to lose the popular vote. But given the severity of the charge, he announced he would call for a major investigation into alleged voter fraud during the campaign.
So you've launched an investigation?
We're going to launch an investigation to find out, and then the next time, and I will say this, of those votes cast, none of them come to me. None of them come to me. They would all be for the other side. None of them come to me. But when you look at the people that are registered, dead, illegal, and 2 states, and some cases maybe 3 states, we have a lot to look into.
Republicans and Democrats yesterday dismissed Trump's call for an investigation.
There's no evidence of that, and I think that those who allege that have to come up with some substantiation of the claim.
Well, let's talk about this.
To undermine the integrity of our voting system is really strange. But in addition to that, on top of it, he wants to investigate something that can clearly be proven to be false, but he resists any investigation of the Russian disruption of our election and any connection to his campaign. All we want is the truth for the American people. I frankly feel very sad about the president making this claim. I felt sorry for him. I even prayed for him. But then I prayed for the United States of America.
All right, folks, let's get right to it with Nicole Austin Hillary, the Director and Counsel, Brennan Center for Justice. Also on our panel today, Monique Presley, legal analyst and attorney with the Presley firm, Paris Denard, Republican political commentator, Dr. Julian Malveaux, President Emeritus of Bennett College. So let's get right to it. So Donald Trump continues to speak this lie of this massive voter fraud. There is no evidence. He cites a Pew study, well, the author of the stuff from 2008, which is 2 elections ago, not 2016. Well, the author said, no, what you're saying, I reported, it's not true. So what do you make of this continuous lie that he wants to spread about massive voter fraud, 3 to 5 million votes cast illegally?
It's preposterous, Roland. As you said, and the Brennan Center has shown this, there is really little evidence of voter fraud. What we are concerned about is that this is going to start a massive witch hunt. We know from the past election and from the past several elections that there's been an effort to institute voter suppression in states across the country. The only thing that this kind of investigation will do is continue to stir up efforts to try to suppress the vote. What Mr. Trump should be doing, what he should be using the power of his Department of Justice to do, is to try to make our voting systems in this country stronger, more effective, and more efficient. What we have found is any evidence of anything that even looks like voter fraud really tends to be clerical errors on the part of elections officials across the country. There is no evidence of people going to polls and in person trying to pretend they are somebody that they are not. It is illegal. It is a crime. People can go to jail for it, and it's simply not happening.
Monique, you're working with the Lawyers Committee on this issue, also the National Bar Association. When you hear this, when you hear this constant drumbeat, I keep making the argument you can't ignore it because this is a clear attempt to impact policy.
Absolutely. You cannot ignore it. It is shameful. I agree it's preposterous, but it's also dangerous. This is one of those times where we're seeing an administration do a bait and switch. Pay attention to what's going on over here so you don't pay attention to what we're trying to do. So Pelosi's right. We need to be paying attention to the Russian investigation, but we also need to be paying attention to this president because the National Bar Association has found every time they start alleging voter fraud, the next thing we find is policies that make it more difficult for citizens to vote. In this last election, almost half of our electorate chose not to vote. And we have a president saying 3 to 5 million people voted who couldn't or weren't supposed to be able to.
Paris, the president said to David Muir, I didn't get any of those votes. Shelley, go to my iPad. This is a story from the Washington Post, October 29, 2016. Trump supporter charged with voting twice in Iowa. In that interview with ABC, he also said people are registered in 2 states. His daughter is registered in 2 states. His chief strategist, Steve Bannon, is registered in 2 states. His Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, is registered in 2 states. Why don't he go talk to his own people if he's concerned? Will he investigate them?
I think the important thing that we're seeing from President Trump is the fact that he wants to get to the bottom of it. This is a president.
No, I asked a question.
And I'm answering your question.
If he said...
So I think, Roland, at the end of the day, if the investigation that he launches through the Department of Justice shows that this information is going to benefit the other side, so be it. There are people that are Republicans that may fall in this issue, like you've seen with, alleged from his daughter or from Bannon.
No, it's not alleged. It's proven. It's actual fact that Bannon, Mnuchin, his daughter, Tiffany Trump, are registered in 2 states. Here's a Trump supporter. No, this is not alleged. So here's my whole point. The president lied. He said, quote, matter of fact, Shelley, play the soundbite again. This is important. He said, I didn't get any of those votes. Shelley, re-cue that up. So I want to play it again so folks can hear it.
So you've launched an investigation.
We're going to launch an investigation to find out, and then the next time, and I will say this, of those votes cast, none of them come to me. None of them come to me. They would all be for the other side. None of them come to me. But when you look at the people that are registered, dead, illegal, and 2 states, and some cases maybe 3 states, we have a lot to look into.
That's a lie. He did get votes of people who tried to vote twice. In fact, also throughout the campaign, Shelley, go to my iPad. This is from Vice News. On Friday, an election judge in Madison County, Illinois, charged with 2 felony counts of election fraud for allegedly submitting an absentee ballot on behalf of the deceased husband. Audrey Cook, 88, told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch she received the ballots in the mail shortly after her longtime spouse passed away in September. She said he had made it clear he intended to vote for Trump.
And that's what I was saying, Roland, that after this investigation is completed, it may show that it was benefiting, that some of the votes that were taken actually benefited the president. This is why you launch investigations, to get to the truth. And the truth may not be what you want it to be, but it is fact and it is truth. And the earlier...
35 million? And the 35 million? Where's the evidence?
Roland, that's why we're going to have an investigation to get to the bottom of it.
Paris, if you cite 3 to 5 million, that has to be based on something, not just there it is.
No, Roland, if I say I don't like you, that's not, I may not have any facts behind
You said
it.
if I don't like you. But if you say, Roland, I don't like you because you lied up against me 10 times, I'm going to say cite the 10 times. Where's the evidence of 3 to 5 million? Where is it? Hold on, Dr. Julian, hold on. Where is it?
That is what the investigation
No. You can't, Dr. Julian. You can't allege 3 to 5 million illegal votes cast, and you have no evidence to show 3 to 5 million. Then you go, hold up, let me go find the 3 to 5 million, which I cited.
No.
Roland,
it's not going to find the 3 to 5 million. It's going to get to the bottom of the investigation, because to your point earlier, you said there's no evidence whatsoever of any voter fraud. And Roland,
actually, the Brennan Center has what they've said is, again, and correct. I'm gonna make this correction. Then I'm gonna go to you. Not that there's none. We're talking about allegation of massive, unbelievable, overwhelming voter fraud.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. And what we said is any evidence is de minimis. You cannot say that there are millions of voter fraud allegations out there when what we have found in our study, what Pew has found, what academics on both sides of the aisle have found is that whenever there has been an issue with voters at the polls, it has been due to clerical error.
That wasn't clerical error that Roland just pointed out.
And even so, those are aberrations.
And I'm prosecuting.
Those are aberrations.
And they're happening. But it's happening.
But you do not launch a national investigation based on
2 or 3
allegations.
That's nuts.
Wait a minute.
You don't do that.
Julian.
Here's where he got the number from. Mr. Trump is a high priest of prevarication. He got the number from Hillary's margin of votes in the popular vote.
Precisely.
He pulled that number from Hillary's margin. There is no such thing as 3 to 5. I think you would concur with me that it's less than 1/100 of 1% error, which means that we may be talking, what, 30,000 votes max.
Let's get to the bottom of it.
And in fact, according to, again, this was analysis done by the Washington Post. And I'm just saying, I just want you to deal with it. They examined more than 1 billion votes cast. More than 1 billion. How many were so-called illegal?
I believe maybe 0.4%, some very minuscule number.
Very tiny number.
Is that massive, Paris?
What I'm saying, Roland, is let's have the investigation and put the matter to rest. Because this is the...
What do you mean put to rest?
Because
he
the matter
keeps
is-
lying.
It is
to rest.
No, to Monique's point, she goes, every time we hear this happening, this happens all the time with Republicans. If the investigation comes out and it says, this is not happening...
Paris, I sat down at the Republican National Committee with Rice Priebus and Sean Spicer, and they sat here and kept talking about, well, it's voter fraud. I said, and you're going to take an L on this. Every time we hear, oh, voter fraud, we see another voter ID law pass. We see more voter suppression. We saw what happened in North Carolina. Please tell me where Donald Trump has chastised North Carolina Republicans for what a federal court said was a laser-like targeting of black voters. That is voter suppression.
You're not going to see him chastise anybody, because what he has done, what he is doing is undermining the strength of our democracy internationally. The more he says voter fraud, the more our democracy, which we go around talking about the strongest in the world, the more we look weak.
Exactly.
And so this is nonsense to spend billions, if not billions of dollars on
falling apart. The country's falling apart, according to our president.
Well, it is.
I mean, that's what he just said. So what you're saying,
oh my God,
so
it's like Mad Max and a Thunderdome out there.
So what you're saying,
have you seen the roads, the bridges? They're falling apart.
We don't. But he wasn't talking about roads and bridges. He was talking about carnage. He was talking about
go to Chicago,
people not
that is
having and the fact that those are real lives, and the adapted phrase of our president is carnage, and that you, as a representative of the party, are taking that on as the marching orders for what we should call real men and women who have lost their lives to gun violence in the street, is unacceptable.
No, I think
what
that
we're
it's actually
finding,
appropriate.
I'm not finished. What we're finding is that we have a president who is a narcissist, and he is taking his own need to be big when he is small, and he is now using taxpayer funds to justify it. So since we should get to the bottom of things, then we need to get to the bottom of Russia, don't we, Paris?
We should get to the bottom of Chicago.
We need to
Shouldn't
get
we,
to the bottom of Russia.
Shouldn't we get to the bottom?
Absolutely.
Should we get to the bottom of
Absolutely.
infrastructure?
So
Should we get to the bottom of education
then what the
reform?
Justice
Should we get to the bottom
Department
of
just
these
did,
issues?
what the Justice Department just did concerning Chicago is an excellent start, because those are taxpayer dollars.
Right.
Do conservatives even care about taxpayer dollars anymore? Now we want to launch investigations based on the president's pipe dream of 3 to 5 million people who voted for somebody else? Then he says none of the votes went to him. Why so? Latinos and women voted for him, didn't they, Paris?
And larger margins than they did for all the other Republicans that ran in the past two.
Exactly. So then who are the illegals that did not vote for him? If 3 to 5 million people voted who weren't supposed to, aren't those his votes?
Roland, can we get back to the fraud issue?
Go ahead.
Let's get back to the fraud issue. If Mr. Trump really wants to make our democracy stronger, he can use his investigative power, the power of his Department of Justice, to actually figure out how do we make our election system stronger. Dr. Malveaux just said this is about our democracy. He pledged 4 to 5 days ago to uphold the Constitution and keep our democracy strong. Making it stronger means modernizing our voting systems. It means ensuring that we have fair, free, and open elections. Revive and restore the Voting Rights Act. Cut down on these voter suppression laws to make sure that every American, whether they're blue, purple, or yellow, can vote. That would be the best way to use his bully pulpit as president and to use the power of his Department of Justice. That's what we need to be spending our time on. So I would urge Mr. Trump to get away from this witch hunt mentality of focusing on something that we know is not really a problem, and to utilize his power to make our democracy stronger. That's what we need to do, whether we're talking about gun violence, the schools. Use that power to better our systems, not to lessen them.
Doesn't he get it? He won. He doesn't seem to get that he won.
No,
so
he
I
gets
mean,
it. He's in the White House.
He not be gracious? Can he not be gracious? And basically, he's doing what he said he was going to do about the wall, about other things. things that we all object to, but this whole...
No, I don't think we all object to.
And in fact, let me, Shelley, pull up my iPad. This is from the New York Times. Trump's voter fraud example, a troubled tale with Bernard Langer. Of course, he's a golfer. Well, this is what Trump said. That he's basing this on that he heard a story, quote, from the very famous golfer Bernard Langer, whom he described as a friend, according to 3 staff members who were in the room for the meeting. The witnesses described the story this way. Mr. Langer, a 59-year-old native of Bavaria, Germany, a winner of the Masters twice and more than 100 events on major professional golf tours around the world, was standing in line at a polling place near his home in Florida on Election Day. The president explained, when an official informed Mr. Langer, he would not be able to vote. Ahead of and behind Mr. Langer were voters who did not look as if they should be allowed to vote, Mr. Trump said, according to the staff members. But they were nonetheless permitted to cast provisional ballots. Wait a minute, hold on, it gets better. The president threw out the names of Latin American countries that the voters might have come from. Paris, that's the basis of his argument that some folks should not have voted. They looked like, according to Bernard Langer, they looked like they shouldn't be able to vote, and Trump comes out and throws out only the names of Latin American countries.
That's racial profiling.
Now, you tell me.
Classic racial profiling.
Explain that. That's the basis of his argument, folks voted illegally.
Classic racial profiling.
Haven't read the report, never heard of the report, cannot substantiate it as fact or true. But what I will say, Roland, is what I hope that this investigation
there were 3 people who were in the room.
And coming from the New York Times is not something that I really think is they have not been fair or right or in the reporting of the president.
But hold on.
So I don't know anything about that.
Bernard Langer confirms the story.
Congratulations. I don't know.
And Trump said it. He got it from Bernard Langer, and there were 3 people in the meeting who heard it.
You asked me about that story, which I have never read or don't know anything, but I would tell you what I hope that is at the end of this investigation, we will be able to get to some solutions and address all the things that you raised.
Because right now, we don't need the investigation.
No, we do, because you need
facts. We know Paris.
You need to put the facts to
we know what happened in North Carolina. We know what happened in several other places. We know how people have been turned away from the polls. We know that, for example, when I went to North Carolina, one county had 8 early voting places, and this time, 2016, had 1. We know what happened. We know about broken machines.
I'll say this here also, according to the New York Times, the antidote, the aide said, was greeted with silence, that Mr. Trump was prodded to change the subject by Reince Priebus, the White House Chief of Staff, and Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas. There's just one problem, though. Bernard Langer, a German citizen with permanent resident status in the U.S., by law is barred from voting.
So he tried.
He's a citizen of Germany, according to his daughter. He is not a friend of President Trump. I don't know why he would talk about him. That came from Bernard Langer to Donald Trump. Nicole, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.